Now that we have the damping in place of the rotation of our turret, it is time to add some other, well, dumbifying factors, if you will, because it's also key to make our turret not notice us when we're too far away. Okay, so that makes our turret smarter as well as dumber, because smarter as in sensors, but dumber as in it can't notice us from far away. So that's always the trade-off when you're scripting games. Now, to do this, open up our turret control here, and let's add another variable and call this range. Now, apparently range is also a predefined variable in Unity since it turns a different color, but we're not using it inside of its class or namespace, so we'll be fine. Okay, now in the update function we get here every so many times a second, it is going to the rotation right away, so we don't want that if we're out of range. So before we do that, we need to add an if statement and actually check if we're in range. Now the range code is a little longer than something that fits in an if statement, so let's turn that into a function that we call can attack target. So we'll use that function, but let's add another statement to the same if and call this target. So basically now both these statements need to be true. If target is true, that means we got successfully through our awake function, and if can attack target is true. Now we have not defined this function yet, so let me copy it and define it here. And then the code to make sure that we're out of range or not will be inside the can attack target function. Now if I save this, Unity will give me a little error. As you can see already, it's popping up in my console, and it says error on line 11, character 73, a void cannot be used as a Boolean context. Now this makes complete sense because a Boolean is either true or false, and this in an if statement is also either true or false. So what we need to make sure is that this function returns either a true or a false statement. Now to do that is pretty easy. You can, for example, type return false, and then as soon as you get into our function it returns false. If I save this, the error will go away. Or if I don't use this and I define the entire function as a Boolean and don't use a semicolon here because it's a function, if I save this, then the error is not there either. Okay, so that's how to solve that. I don't like these type of things. It looks a little too nerdy for me, so let's just use the return false statement. Now we are returning false pretty quickly here. We have not defined yet to see if we're out of range, so let's add another if statement. And let's find out if we're in range or not. So let's add a comment to say if check if the target is close enough. Okay, let's call this vector3 dot distance, which is a very handy function to calculate distance in 3D space. And now it needs the numbers of where the distance is from. It basically needs two variables. First one is our current position. That's the one from the turret, and then the second one is the target's position. These could be in different order, of course. And then this will create the distance. And now we need to know if the distance is further away or not from our range variable here. So let's add is bigger than range. Okay, so if we get inside of this function, it means we are too far away, so we can print something to our console window here and say out of range. Alright, let's save this. Make sure there's no errors. Right now we're in range because the cube, well, it's not rotating, so something is not working. Let me see if when I'm out of range, you do see out of range pop up in the console window down towards the left, but if I get closer for some reason it is not rotating, so we need to do some debugging here. Let's look at this. It says if target in Okay, so it's returning false, so we also need to return true if we don't get into the if statement. So let's check if it works now. And as you can see, the cube is now rotating. So fortunately, that was not too hard of an error to fix. So let's move on to the next part where we're not only looking at the distance between us and the turret, but now for the really fun part, see if there's collision between us and the turret so that he cannot see us. And then we're really getting towards some gameplay. So let's do that next.